Welcome to the main basketball rankings podcast. I'm your host, basketball data nerd Lucas McNelly, and let's talk about the football gold ball games. We finished off the 4 games that were not 8-man this past weekend on Saturday, and it didn't quite go the way a lot of people thought it was going to go. So let's get into that a little bit. But first, very important thing to talk about here, and that is the food trucks. Okay, so if you've never been to a gold ball game at Fitzpatrick Stadium in Portland, which is right, of course, behind Hadlock Field, and I had never been to a football gold ball game at Fitzpatrick Stadium, they have food trucks there, and they are awesome. And there's like 8 of them, 8 or 9 of them. There's a poutine one. There's one that just has the map of Maine on it, and there's one that's just coffee, and there's a whole bunch of them, and it's awesome. And if you're standing on that side of the field, which if you're looking at the picture behind me, if you're watching this, it's over this shoulder. It's this shoulder. There, if you're on that side of the field, it smells amazing, and it's very distracting. And there's a line of people all the time. And one guy made the point that what you do, the move is there wasn't really a line at the meatball place, which is next to the poutine place, which has a very long line. And someone in the press box said, the move would be you go to the meatball place so that you have something to eat while you're in line for the poutine. Because I hear the poutine's amazing, but I can't do gluten and they cross contaminate. So whatever. And I had a buffalo chicken sandwich from these people and from some other truck, and it was so good. The point being, we have this food at the expo is terrible. There's lots of food trucks. How we can't get food trucks somehow outside the expo, even if it's just for the championship games, but really for the quarterfinal days that are long. And there's this terrible expo food, and you got to bring like a granola bar and a sad little sandwich, and it's really terrible. And I think we got to get the food trucks. I don't know who's in charge of this. I don't know who's responsible, who we have to talk to, but I'm starting a petition for 2 things at the expo. 1, we fix the floor. We put the floor in straight. And then 2, more important, because no one seems to care about the floor except for me, is we get food trucks and we fix the food situation at the expo. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. The weather cooperated for this games, which is fantastic because it looked like it was going to be windy and cold and like a half-inch of rain all day, which just would have been miserable. And the rain went away, and so it was just windy and slightly cold, and not really as cold as I thought it was going to be. So it turned out to be a really nice day for football. So let's get into it. Thornton Academy in Portland. Thornton Academy, I had them favored. A lot of people had them favored, even though Portland had won the regular season game. I think a lot of people thought that was an aberration. Thornton Academy's been to 6 straight gold ball games. Portland hadn't won since 2002, and boy, did Portland come out motivated. That defense dominated the first half. Wyatt Benoit, the Thornton Academy quarterback, couldn't get anything going, and the defense was everywhere. They were swarming. They were tenacious. They were awesome. And then at halftime, they were up 6-0. And you're like, okay. But also, you're sitting there going, boy, they dominated that half. And you really don't want to only be up 6-0 because, as we all know, Thornton Academy can fill up the scoreboard pretty quickly. Second half starts. Thornton goes 3 and out. They punt it, beautiful punt down to the 2-yard line. Portland can't do anything with it, and so Thornton Academy sells out on the block punt. They get the block punt. They fall on it in the end zone. 7-6. All of a sudden, your momentum's gone. Your first half that you had the 6-0 lead gone. You've done all of that, and now you're losing 7-6, and you can just see people looking around, going, "Oh no, this is not good for Portland." And credit to Portland, they did not care. They absolutely dominated the third quarter, put on a clinic, ran the score up. They end up winning. Where's the score? Let me get the score right here. 35-14, just an absolute thrashing of a third quarter, especially in fourth quarter as well. Thornton Academy was able to get a little bit going, but it was just an absolute domination by Portland, and they are going to win. They have won their first gold ball since 2002, and so now we're going to talk to Portland head coach Sean Green. All right, Coach, first gold ball for Portland since 2002. How's it feel?
It feels tremendous. I'm just so proud of these kids, this coaching staff, the boosters, the community, the families, everybody involved. It's great to bring the gold ball back to Portland.
How important was it in prepping for this week to have the regular season win under your belt?
It doesn't matter. It's in the past. Focusing on the past is a waste of time. All we need to do is stay present, focus on each individual day, go 1-0 in the meeting rooms, 1-0 in film, 1-0 in practice, walkthroughs, and then eventually that leads to 1-0 on game day.
So your defense was incredible in the first half, really shut Thornton Academy down, but you're only up 6-0 at halftime, and then they get the blocked punt and get the touchdown. All of a sudden, the lead's gone.
We talk about how much we crave adversity, and that blocked punt and that touchdown that they have, as crazy as it sounds, we, kind of swung the momentum back in our favor. And we needed that adversity to really have that, have the mentality that we needed to finish the game. So, it happens. The adversity was good for us, though, and it was great for our guys to respond and finish the game.
Talk about the decision to go for the onside kick. You had the lead. I think you were up 14 and went for the onside kick. Is that just going for blood?
We love our onside kick unit. Let's go! If we have a chance to put a game away, we're gonna, we feel like we're gonna do that. And we talk about having step on the neck mentality. And Justin Bouchard is the best kicker in the state, best onside kicker in the state, and we have a tremendous unit as well. And they executed at a high level, and they got the ball back in our hands.
Talk about your quarterback. I heard you talking about him to a couple other people. How essential is he?
Louis is tremendous. I've known Louis for a long time. I was his private quarterback coach when he was a young kid, and he's a very special young man. He's just one of those kids that you hope to, you kind of look up to, and he's going to be a tremendous man someday. And I'm just really excited for his future. But to lead our team the way he did, to respond in this game after the game that we had last season, he was tremendous.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much.
So you can hear how windy it is. First thought, and then the second thing, I forgot to mention the onside kicks. They went for onside, I think 2 onside kicks in the third quarter, and that really put the nail in the coffin of Thornton Academy. And then the thing I was thinking about today when I rewatched this is there's real Joe Mazzulla vibes with Sean Green. Like super Joe Mazzulla vibes. I feel like he's going to the Joe Mazzulla school of whatever the hell Joe Mazzulla is doing, and it's clearly working for him. So I say carry on and lean into it would be my advice on that. All right, so let's move on to Falmouth Kennebunk, the Class B game. Kennebunk, of course, is the defending champion. Falmouth, we all know the story there. And what I'm going to do here, I don't normally do this. I normally would do a little intro, but I'm going to throw to one of these intros I record before the game from the site. Couple reasons. Again, you're going to see how windy it is. And also, I make a pretty nice catch here. I'll be honest. And why not? Let's show it. Let's have some fun. Here we go. One of the big stories of the football season this year has been the reemergence of Falmouth under new coach Spencer Emerson. You might remember they had a bit of an issue at the end of last year. There was a revolt of the players. There was a whole thing. Spencer Emerson came in, has led them to an undefeated season. They have the #1 defense in the state at just under 7 points a game. And as you can see, it's very windy here at Fitzpatrick Stadium. They're going to face their biggest test of the season in Kennebunk. Kennebunk is 7th in the state in scoring at 40 points a game, and they just happen to be the defending champions. So can Falmouth continue the storybook season? Can they end it with a gold ball, or will Kennebunk be able to go back-to-back? That's what we're going to find out pretty soon here from Fitzpatrick Stadium. If you're not near Portland and don't want to sit in this wind, and there's quite a lot of wind, WHOU has the stream. They do a great job as always. Rob Kennedy and Jared Richmond on the call. But we're going to give out one more gold ball here, and then it is basketball season. How about that catch? That's a pretty good catch. I don't have a lot of opportunities to do anything that's like super quasi athletic anymore, being an old man who sits at a keyboard and stuff like that. But that was a pretty good catch. Just saying. And also, what a disaster for my hair. Okay, so we all know the story about Falmouth. Spencer Emerson was on this very podcast in September. He was nice enough to spend an hour with me and talk to me, and he's a super nice guy and super generous with his time, and was even super nice to my kid when my kid photobombed the interview. So there's a little bit of, you're rooting for them a little bit because there's a great story here. We all know it, but to summarize, there was a player revolt. They fired their coach stepped down. There was this big thing online of the worst kind of people, talking about how these kids have no work ethic and they're going to fail in life now. And this is just proof how soft they are. And Falmouth sucks and all this. And then they went out and they went undefeated. And they had the number one defense in the state. But they still had a little bit more to prove. 10 of the 14 writers in Varsity Maine picked Kennebunk. Sports Illustrated had Kennebunk winning 32-28. I had them winning by 11.5 points in the model because the model doesn't care that Kennebunk is the defending champion. And it was kind of funny before the game, the defensive coordinator Dylan Rotkoff came up to me and was complaining about, well, not complaining is not the right word, was talking about how Sports Illustrated thought they were going to give up 32 points. They were giving up less than 7 points a game on the season, and he seemed, I'll say the word is maybe a little bit offended that Sports Illustrated would put that in there. And to say it was a motivating factor seems fair. In the game, the defense was everywhere. They definitely had something to prove. They seemed more motivated and faster than when I saw them play against Lawrence in the regional final. Andrew Hart, who runs mainhighschoolfootball.com, which is such a great resource, was commenting early, like in the first possession, like, wow, these guys are all over the place. They Kennebunk can't get to the edge, stuff like that. And then he was saying other football specific things that I only sort of understand. And, Falmouth just absolutely dominated this game. They Kennebunk got a touchdown when they were trying to sack Trey Walker, the Falmouth quarterback, and he tried to throw it away. And it was one of those things where he just starts throwing it in slow motion and he realizes, oh, no, as he's releasing it, that it's going directly to a defensive lineman. Hits him right in the hands on like the 5-yard line, and he just walks into the end zone. So that was the 6 points they gave up in the first half. And then at halftime, Rotkoff, the defensive coordinator, walks by me and says, 6 down, 26 to go, which I got a real kick out of. And Kennebunk got another touchdown on a kickoff return, which temporarily made it a little bit close. But the defense for Falmouth gave up 0 points. The yards from scrimmage, rather, were not even close. And just what a story for Falmouth to start where they started and to end up running the table. To even get to the state game would have been amazing. But to beat the defending champions, to beat them as convincingly as they did, one high-placed person said to me that they thought that was maybe the best single season turnaround in state history, and they know better. They would know better than me, and I think they're probably right. And you're gonna hear some about this over the next couple days about how great of a story this is, and there's every reason to go with that because it's a little bit Disney movie nonsense. But here's Spencer Emerson after the game. All right, Spencer, first gold ball in Falmouth team history. How you feeling?
I can't describe it. Elated. We talked about climbing the mountain and getting to the mountaintop, and these kids embody everything we have. All the core values of the program, they embody them. They work hard. They stay the course. They play one play at a time. And I'm just so proud. I don't have the perfect words, but I can't tell you how excited I am.
When you got this job last year or whenever it was, what was the highest you thought was possible in year one?
I didn't think about I really didn't. We talked earlier this year, and I didn't think about the macro so much as the season. I thought about establishing a competitive program, and we're still doing that, right? This can't be a one magical year. This has to be a sustainable, steady, competitive program. So the thought was building core values and habits that make a lot of sense, and I think we've been able to establish those. Now, did I think we were going to go undefeated and win a gold ball? I don't think anybody predicts that, but I knew we'd be good early on. I knew in camp we had something special, and these guys got better and better and better, and we were able to finish the job.
How much of this week was fueled by they don't believe in us, nobody thinks we can actually do this, these are the defending champs?
Yeah, a lot of it was because you got people telling us, wow, congrats on a great season. Almost like the game's over, right? What's up, boys? Almost like the game's over, and the season's over, and Kennebunk's really good, and they're back to back, and they've been there before, and you hear all the chatter. But realistically, we know what we had in the locker room. We use it as fuel. We had a couple quotes put up on the side of the locker room, and we had a couple interviews planning on repeating the film room. And we use a lot of fuel. We play with a lot of juice and swagger, and we don't hide from that. We don't run from that, and the kids really came through.
Your defense was extraordinary tonight. 13 points, but all given up.
Yeah.
None of them by the defense.
Correct.
Talk about them and their impact.
Well, the defense is just plays with fanatical effort and just ridiculous effort, ridiculous violence, aggressiveness. And our defensive coordinator, Dylan Rockoff, he's just special. He knows how to scheme. He knows how to get kids motivated. And him and I are able to talk in a way that's very productive and efficient. And our defense just really came through for us.
And then your offense had an equally great game. Couple of really nice throws from your quarterback, despite the one deer in the headlights moment there.
Kids make mistakes, and he tried to throw the ball away, got caught up, had a couple really nice deep balls, was long on one of them, but still a really good ball. I think we could have got a better release. But either way, regardless, our offense executed the way we needed to, and when you get the ball, you need to get first downs, and you take a knee, that's how you want to end the football game. We were able to do that.
Most importantly, are you ready for basketball season?
You'll see me courtside at Falmouth High School, baby. Let's go.
All right, congratulations.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Most important question is, are you ready for basketball season? And I think we're all ready for basketball season. The other big takeaway from that is that for next year, I need to get a microphone that has a dead cat on it, which is the little fuzzy thing that can attach to my phone. I mean, I have one, but not for this. That can attach to my phone because, dear God, the wind. Oh my God, the wind. Okay. All right. So in the other games up in Lewiston, Wells and Foxcroft. Wells is up 21-0, and then you know exactly what's happening when the word comes out that Wells is up 21-0. Wouldn't it be hilarious if they came back, if Foxcroft was able to come back and roll off 22 straight? That didn't happen. Wells won, I think it was 34-0, so they get their, I don't know how many goal balls in a row that is, but it's at least 2 goal balls in a row. And then in Class C, Freiburg gets their first one, I think it's since 1965. They just absolutely obliterated Herman. I think it was 28-0, and neither of those were a surprise. So yeah, there's your goal ball game. So your big takeaways, great story from Falmouth. Need to get the food trucks, for the expo, priority 1. And then congratulations to Portland on getting there for the first time since 2002, and to Freiburg for the first time since 1965. We're going to take a quick break here for reasons, and then we're going to do the top 10, and we're going to wrap up this football season. All the games are in the books. There's no more information to glean, so let's get into the top 10. The model went 47-6. That's 88.7% during the entirety of the playoffs. That's all the playoff games in all the classes, 8-man, whatever, got 6 wrong. So if you're new to the power rankings, and a lot of you might be, let's give you a basic rundown of it. It's sort of built on the foundation of heel points, where you get points based on how many points the team you beat is worth, and then that number goes up as they become worth more points. You get the idea. The big difference is that it cares about strength of schedule. Well, it obviously cares about strength of schedule. It cares about the score of the game, cares where the game was played. Couple other factors go into it. So, and it's not a binary 1 loss, 1-0 sort of situation. It's actually better if you were to lose 21-20 to a very good team. That's better than beating a very bad team by 2 touchdowns. That's going to be worth more because that's more information. Like, we know you're going to beat the really bad team by 2 touchdowns. Probably beat them by more. But if you were to lose by 1 point to, say, Falmouth or to Thornton Academy or Portland, then that is much more telling and much more an indicator of how good you are than just blowing out a bad team. So let's get started. Number 10 is Deering, 8-2 on the year. They lost 35-14 to Kennebunk. I think that was in the regional final. Yeah, they scored 29.4 points a game. That's 27th in the state. They allow 13 points a game. That's 9th in the state. They have a point differential of 164. That's 16th. And they played the 19th hardest schedule. And that's sort of to give you an idea of the main numbers that sort of fuel the rankings. You got to beat people by a lot. You got to not give up a lot of points. You want to have a really high scoring differential, and then you want to, not run up the score on people, but you want to beat them convincingly. It's sort of, it's the difference between beating someone 14-0 and 42-0 is significant. The difference between beating them 42-0 and 80-0 is nothing. It's basically it would probably shut off around. It's a percentage. The way to think of it is it's a percentage. You get up to 100% of what a team's worth in that game, and 100% will stop it around. In basketball, it's a scoring differential of roughly 35 points, but it depends on how high scoring the game is, but somewhere in that range. So beating someone by 50 doesn't help you anymore. Okay. Number 9, Noble. Jameer Rose, basketball player, maybe Mr. Basketball this year. Quarterback for Noble, they go 8-3. They lost 57-29 to Thornton Academy in the regional final, which a lot of people, me, thought was going to be closer. They scored 30.4 points a game this year, 23rd in the state. Points allowed 16.7. That's 18th in the state. They were plus 150 against the 8th hardest schedule. That's a very hard schedule. Number 8, Bonnie Eagle, who lost to Noble 28-20 in the playoffs, but did beat them in the regular season. They finished 7-3 on the year. They scored 28 points a game. That's 29th in the state, 19.1 points a game, 22nd in the state, only plus 89 against the number 6 schedule. So how are they above Noble? Noble beat them in the playoffs, after all. Well, they did beat them in the regular season, so there's that. That's worth a lot of points. And they just happened to beat Portland 14-8. And after what we all saw this weekend, beating Portland 14-8 is pretty impressive. So Bonnie Eagle finishes 7th or 8th. Number 7 is Kennebunk. They finished 10-1. They of course lost to Falmouth 26-13. They finished 10th in the state in scoring at 37.5 points a game. They finished 17th in scoring defense at 16.4. They are plus 233. That's 10th best against the 14th hardest schedule. They dropped 2 spots. I think I forgot to write it down before I updated it, but they were 5th going into the gold ball game, where they were an 11.5 point underdog. In the model, not anywhere else, but everybody else had them winning, but they're an underdog. Number 6 is Greeley, 9-1 on the year. They beat Mount Air at 58-20 to win the 8-man large title. They won their final 9 games of the year after losing the season opener to Camden. They scored 39.8 points a game. That's 6th best. Gave up 14.8. That's 11th best, plus 250 against the 36th hardest schedule in the state. Number 5, Freiburg, 9-2. They beat Herman 28-0 to take the Class C gold ball. They have those 2 losses by a combined 2 points to Falmouth and Wells. And you might notice that we haven't mentioned Falmouth and Wells yet. So those are 2 pretty good losses. That's what I was talking about before. Losing to Falmouth and Wells by 2 combined points tells us a lot about how good you are. And the Falmouth guys, I was talking to the Falmouth guys before the game, and they had nothing but great things to say about Freiburg. They were super impressed with how good they are. They scored 34.9 points a game. That's 13th in the state. They gave up 8.7. That's 3rd in the state. They're plus 288, which is 5th best against the 38th hardest schedule. The schedules get softer as you move down in classes because, the Class A teams are going to obviously play a tougher schedule and they have a better opportunity to move up in the power rankings. So when people complain that the Class A teams are ranked too low, my response is you have more opportunities than anybody else to gain points for the power rankings, beat more people. Number 4 is Wells, 11-0. They beat Foxcroft 34-0. Foxcroft drops all the way down to 14th, by the way. They scored 39.7 points a game. That's 7th best. Points allowed, 8.5. That's 2nd best. They are plus 344 on the season in only 11 games. That's 3rd best in the state. If you're wondering, and you probably already know this, Old Orchard Beach was number 1 in the state in scoring differential. And hold on, I'll look that up and give you the number. 486 in scoring differential was Old Orchard Beach. Stearns was 2nd with 422. Neither of them finished in the top 10, as you may have guessed by now. Number 3 is Thornton Academy. They're 9-3. They lost to Portland in that state title game 35-14. But they have been to 6 straight state titles, so I don't think anyone feels too bad for them. 6 consecutive state title games, that is. Points scoring, 37.6 per game. That's 9th best in the state. Points allowed, 15.3. That's 13th best. They're plus 267. That's 7th best against the second hardest schedule in the state. Number 2, the Cinderella story, Falmouth. 11-0. The Navigators beat Kennebunk 26-13 for the first gold ball in school history. Kind of boggles the mind that Falmouth doesn't have a gold. There's a sport that Falmouth doesn't have a gold ball in, but hey, it's their first one in. That's their first one in football. They scored 33.8 points a game. That's 16th best in the state. They allowed 7.4 points a game. That's first. That's the number 1 scoring defense in the state. That's how you win a championship, kids. They were plus 291, which was 4th, and they played the 16th hardest schedule in the state. Which leads us to Portland. Number 1 is Portland. Very glad they finished number 1 because I just foresaw a scenario where, because Thornton Academy had a decent lead on this going into the gold ball game point-wise, and I was just like, oh, please let Portland finish ahead of Thornton Academy, even if it's by a fraction of a point, because the last thing I want to do is have to explain to people how the math shook out. So I'm very glad the math shook out the way it shook out. And no, I did not put my finger on the scale at all. They actually finished with 81.87 points in the power rankings, and Thornton Academy was all the way down at 75.1. So there you go. They, of course, finished 10-2. They beat Thornton Academy 35-14. Those 2 losses are to Bonnie Eagle and to Exeter, who is, of course, in New Hampshire. They were down 7-6 in that game and just blew the doors off Thornton Academy in the second half. They are 11th in scoring differential at 36 even. 8th in defense at 12.8. They are plus 279 on the season. That's 6th. And they played the 7th hardest schedule. So there is your top 10. Your final top 10. Portland, Falmouth, Thornton Academy, Wells, Freiburg, Greeley, Kennebunk, Bonnie Eagle, Noble, and Deering. And that, of course, ends the football season. It's over. We made it to basketball season. And let's flip the switch. Boom, there you go. We're back in gyms. We're inside. We are not dependent on the weather. We do not have to pack 16 layers of clothes to go to a game anymore. We are where God intended, in a gym, in December, watching people play basketball. Life is good again. It's going to be a very exciting season. I have an interview lined up that I think you're going to enjoy for later this week. We're going to do a fun podcast where I get some people in here and we're going to draft teams based on how many wins they get on the season. So if you get a message from me going, hey, what do you think of these guys? It's because I'm trying to do well in this draft and not let Adam Robinson beat me, because that would be the worst thing possible, as we all know. And we also have to figure out, Adam, if you're listening to this, we have to figure out, because he's now coaching, he's the JV coach for St. Dom's. And so we have to make a distinction of whether or not he's allowed to draft St. Dom's because he has insider information. Is he required to draft St. Dom's? Lots of questions. Lots of questions. Okay. I think that's going to do it for the show. Let's call it a wrap on football. Let's call it a wrap on this episode. And all right, this has been a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your source for the most comprehensive coverage of Maine high school basketball from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. This podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoyed this, please leave a nice review, because it does help algorithms, which are very stupid, but this is the nightmare, the dystopian nightmare we live in. Anyway, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Thanks for listening.